The hearing will get underway. Senator Grassley is much recovered, but is not here for the hearing this morning. Senator Johnson has been kind enough to fill in for him. We send our very best wishes to Chuck as he continues to get better, and we'll see him back here in fighting form in short order, I am sure. Today's hearing, I want to welcome the witnesses. We have a very, very good panel, and this is part of a series of hearings on the economic and budgetary costs of climate change that press the point that caring about debt and deficits requires caring about climate change, from creeping climate inflation to looming systemic risks. Families, communities, and the federal government will bear, and indeed are already bearing, the costs of upheaval in the world's climate. For our 13th hearing in this series, we highlight the threats of massive carbon pollution to our oceans, threats which in turn affect both coastal, obviously, and also inland communities. The threat to oceans is profound and often not well recognized. They absorb 25% of all carbon dioxide emissions, which makes them more acidic, and they absorb more than 90% of the excess heat generated by these emissions, making them heat up. The numbers are immense. Scientists measure how fossil fuel emissions are heating up our oceans in zettajoules. A zettajoule is a joule, the standard unit of heat energy measure, with 21 zeros behind it. It is a fearsomely big number. For a sense of practical scale, the total energy consumption of all humankind, all around the world, of every form, sums up to just 1/2 of a zettajoule per year. And yet, for the price of the fossil fuel component of that 1/2 zettajoule of energy for humankind, our oceans are absorbing about 14 zettajoules of excess heat every year. That is the heat equivalent of 7 Hiroshima bombs detonating every second of every day in the oceans. 7 atom bombs every second, every day, year after year. It is a colossal heat load. Were it not for oceans absorbing all that excess CO2 and all that excess heat, the U.S. would likely be already largely unlivable in many areas. Oceans have saved us. But absorbing all those emissions and all the heat is not without consequence. The heat is raising the temperature of our oceans, causing sea levels to rise, both by thermal expansion of seawater and by added runoff from melting glaciers and ice sheets. As a result, a shadow looms over coastal communities and their blue economies. Today, 40% of all Americans live along the coast. If American coastal counties were aggregated into their own country, it would be the 3rd highest GDP country in the world. In these communities, and for the entire U.S. economy, marine industries are an engine of economic growth. They employ nearly 2.3 million workers and contribute more than $430 billion to overall GDP. Ocean economies face particular risk, obviously, from climate changes. In 2021, commercial and recreational fishing contributed almost $140 billion to the U.S. economy, but fisheries are being harmed by warming ocean temperatures. Fish populations are relocating away to cooler waters, and economists estimate that direct economic losses could reach almost $1 billion annually by 2100. Downstream effects in fish processing and fisheries-based tourism will make it worse. One example, impacts to Alaskan snow crab fisheries have caused one town's revenues to drop over 90%. Ocean-based tourism and recreation add $275 billion each year to the U.S. economy and, of course, are important to Rhode Island. Yet huge swaths of American beaches are likely to disappear in the not-too-distant future. And scuba diving, snorkeling, and eco-tours businesses struggle as local wildlife face existential threats from climate change. Coral reefs, for instance, are bleaching and dying, and oceans are acidifying, making it worse. And not many people want to come and see a bleached and crumbling dead reef. In Florida, water temperatures reached hot tub level this past summer, 101 degrees. Not great for ocean life. Rising ocean temperatures also cause more intense storms that are causing enormous and enormously costly damage. On top of the physical damage, the storms shut down travel and tourism until storm-hit communities can rebuild. Infrastructure, roads, bridges, military bases, and ports are in increased jeopardy. And when critical infrastructure is lost, local economies suffer. And the federal government often has to foot the bill. Here we connect to our insurance hearings and the testimony that sea level rise has the potential to trigger cascading economy-wide economic catastrophes. One of our witnesses will testify that sea level projections will prove to be substantial underestimates if we trigger destabilization and collapse of the Greenland or West Antarctic ice sheets. Cross these tipping points, and the danger dramatically increases. The added sea level rise of crossing those tipping points will inundate additional hundreds of billions of dollars of real estate, and that makes properties in that bigger risk zone harder to insure. What you can't insure, you can't mortgage, and that can trigger a predicted crash in coastal property values. The market will have to adjust abruptly to a new realization that the useful life of billions of dollars in property will end way sooner than expected, setting off a series of dangerous economic cascades. We saw in 2008 how trouble in the mortgage market cascaded out into the broader economy. The writing is on the wall for a climate-fueled repeat. We are actually seeing the early stages of just such a trajectory in the Florida insurance market right now. The thing about economic crises is that they come on slowly until they come on fast, and then they can come on very fast indeed. You've heard the warnings, you've seen the witnesses, they were serious grown-ups, expert in their fields. The early evidence of their warnings coming true is already visible. It's time for us to wake up.